Welcome back to another video, guys. So like our previous video, we're gonna take a look at match 2, but before we do, we can check the results for match 1. So we can quickly watch what the fight would look like. So if I remember previously, the idea was we betted heavily that this right team would win, the team blue. I still like to believe it's gonna win just purely because a lot of these units are counters to these units. But yeah, let's play out the fight and let's see what happens. So yeah, like you saw there, because of Villeneuve, the DCS3, even super humanized, did no damage. And because of Schneal, this DDR S3 is also just gonna hurt his team more. This Akate S3 also, I'd like to believe, should do no damage. It's a little rough. I feel like the blue team in this scenario is really heavily favored to win versus the other. I believe the fight itself is going to be fairly long, so from this point on I'll try to speed it up a bit just to make it a little bit easier on the time, and I will see you guys at the end of this fight. Yeah, there we go. So like we predicted previously, not only did blue team win, but all the units stayed alive. They got the first kill, and it was a pretty slow fight. The total amount of turns was well over 11. We can now get into the next fight. So for team 2, or the second round, it was the Cleave one. If I remember correctly, what we predicted was the team with Yoha and G Ross would win. They would get the first point. It would be perfect and it would be fast. Now let's see if we ended up predicting correctly. The way this fight plays out is going to heavily depend on what this Luna does. Because she has 3s here, I'd like to believe that the decision for the fight is already placed in the hands of the red team. Purely because I think the only way Luna would win in this scenario was if the only team Luna's team would win is if the Luna S2 instead of S3, but unfortunately that's not how the AI works, and I believe this S3 superhumanized is gonna kill everything. Ooh, G Ross is a very strong unit indeed. So luckily we won the max amount of currency we possibly could. We guessed everything correctly, and now we can go and see if we what predictions we want to make for the next match. So let's take a look at match 2 now. So match 2, the first team is kind of similar to like the team 2 from the previous match, where we do have a cleave team versus a tank down team, I guess you could say. This match, just looking heavily at the sets, I feel like it's in favor of the red team. The reason I say so is because the main premise for blue team is countering, but because the red team has this character right here, Astromaster Elena, they can counter. If you don't know what she does, she gives herself this buff called Star's Blessing. She starts the match with it, and when she S3, she refreshes it. As long as she has this buff, nobody can counterattack on the enemy team. So what that does is that effectively shuts down everything on the opposing team from moving until it's their turn. So the way this fight's gonna play out is the Briar is gonna take the first turn just purely based on the speeds of the match. The Briar's gonna S3. Now, because it is AI control, she won't be able to soul. Well, she doesn't have souls anyway, but she won't be able to soul burn. So there is a chance that stuff will resist naturally. Like we're just hoping that she defense breaks like, you know, maybe one or two things at most. So the Briar's gonna S3. It's gonna proc her artifact, Renewed Will, which is then gonna push up her entire team. The next thing that will take a turn is either going to be the Strays or the Ashmaster Elena. This depends on just speed RNG. It doesn't really matter. I don't think it really matters what goes next. But let's just assume based on speed that Ashmaster Elena will go next. She's just going to S3. It's just going to do damage. Everything's going to be unbuffable and defense broken in an ideal world. And her S3 is just going to do a lot of damage. You can see she's built pure damage. The buff itself is also gets refreshed on her S3. So as you can see, it grants Star's Blessing. So again, they won't be able to counterattack once again. The next person to go will be the Strays. Now, Strays is on Strike of Aspirations. It's basically like Benimar's Tachi. So because he's not going to have any debuffs, he'll get an attack buff. He's going to S3. His S3 is just going to pick something and kill it. It's most likely going to be the Estelle. Now, the thing with the Estelle is she's going to also mitigate the damage anyway, so she's going to die regardless. So after the S3, he's going to get an extra turn, which is going to let him S2. The S2 is just going to do a lot of damage to everything. And because the extra turns, it's going to proc the Saria, which will then move next, S3, and ideally just nuke everything. The small little issues, I guess you could say, would be stuff like Captain Landy that has some crit res. But it's quite a bit of damage. Even if they're not critting, it's a very big onslaught of damage, especially if she were to get defense broken. So again, I do think it's heavily favored in the red team. So if it were me, I would vote that the red team's going to win. The red team's going to get the first kill. Everybody's going to survive. And it's going to be a very fast match. And I'm so confident I'll put all my points into it. The thing is, because they're so fast as well, after they take their turns, they're just going to lap, right? So they're going to, like, Briar's gonna, I'm fairly confident that Briar's gonna just take another turn before something on the enemy team can even take their first turn. So like them just constantly lapping as well, just beating into this team is more or less gonna secure the red team the win. So for team 2, we have this debuff cleavish style team versus a semi-tank down team. You have like tanks like Ilnav and Tywin mixed with a fast Laya and a Celine that's being protected by a barrier. This barrier is going to be important for this next part. So what happens is the Nopal is going to take the first turn based purely off the speeds, and she's going to start the fight off by S3. So the S3 does give her an extra turn, so she'll follow up with an S2. Now this S3 is going to hit everything, it's going to strip everything, and the main caveat is that because the Celine has a barrier, she takes the damage before she gets stripped, which means that the Nopal won't break the barrier, so Celine will be at 100% real HP. So everything's going to get binded, but then the Tywin passive is just going to cleanse it, so everything's going to have no debuffs. So the Nopal is then going to follow up with an S2, which seals. The thing is, she's going to always hit the Laya in this scenario, because the Laya will have taken real HP damage, since she doesn't have a barrier. So she'll steal the Laya, which effectively doesn't do much, and then her Artie is going to proc, which is going to push up the Robin. Now the Robin is going to have a special buff from the Watcher Shuri, or not Watcher, sorry, Westwind Executioner Shuri, which essentially lets her put bombs on everything when she does an attack. So the Robin's going to start off with an S2 because that's just how the AI works, and because she was pushed up due to an extra attack as well, she's going to have Swift Attack. So what Swift Attack does is after she attacks, she's going to get pushed up 50%. Alongside with the actual S2, which gives you another 50%, she's going to S2, put bombs and burns on everything, and then immediately push herself back up to S3 to detonate all those burns. Now, because she's also using AoE skill, her Renewed Will is going to proc, and what this does is this is going to then push up the other two units. So the next thing to follow up will be the Bihu. Now Bihu's S3 is a non-attack skill, and it's basically going to put burns on stuff alongside cannot buff. So the one thing to note is that because of his artifact, or sorry, his EE, he's going to give himself attack buff. Now Bihu with attack buff will effectively make him have the highest attack on this team. And what happens is when he S3s, it is a non-attack skill, which will proc the Celine. So the Celine is going to then S2 into the Bihu, effectively killing him. So the reason we have first point on blue is because that's actually going to be the first kill in the game, most likely. Reason being that everything else has enough HP where they're going to live most of the time. The follow up then it will be with Roger Shuri, which is going to S3, and he's going to detonate everything that hasn't already been detonated, effectively killing stuff and stunning stuff to then be followed up with. I'm fairly confident that the red team will win this fight, but the blue team should get the first point in this fight. Now, the reason we don't have the other two checked is because there's a lot of RNG in this fight, especially from the red side, because we're trying to land burns and bombs without any ignore ER or soul burns. What that means is that there's always a world where you just resist, you know? So to be safe in challenge, when you do a challenge guess, like a challenge prediction, you have to get everything right in order for you to gain all the points. If you were to get even one thing wrong, it automatically counts as a wrong altogether. So we're going to go with the winning team being red, the first point going to blue, and we're going to leave the other two blank for the time being, because again, we're not entirely sure what's going to happen. Well, we kind of have an idea on perfect, because we think the red team's going to win, but the BU might die. You don't think everything's going to live, so we don't check that one. And then again, the speed is so heavily dependent on what you land and what you miss or resist. So just to be safe, we're just going to take the first two. So we're going to go red, blue, and then leave the other ones blank. So this one, we only have 30 because we put all our predictions in the previous one. But I'm fairly confident with this prediction. I'm pretty sure this is how the fight's going to play out. And I sure hope that it actually does play out like this. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, please comment, like, and subscribe. I will see you guys for the match 3 prediction when it is available.